Welcome to the Multiplay Mysterious Challenger Cup. Here it's an event leading us up to the Insomnia Truesilver Championship, the second Insomnia Truesilver Championship, the $30,000 tournament. And we have a single elimination cutthroat competition here tonight to win just one prize, the VIP trip to the Truesilver Championship. The winner of our competition tonight will win travel, accommodation, ticket to Insomnia, everything you need to take part and have a chance of winning $30,000. I am your host, Callum Leslie, producer of the tournament at Insomnia itself, and one of the Truesilver Championship casters has joined me this evening and tomorrow evening while we conclude this, bring you the first 5 rounds this evening. It's Raven.
Hello. You okay?
World famous caster Raven.
World famous. Wow, that's a new one. I maybe wouldn't go that far, but I'm getting there, I guess.
All right. So I'm a little bit worried about this because normally when I produce the Truesilver Championship, we've got like a team of like a dozen people. Today, I'm doing everything myself. So
I have the utmost amount of confidence in you. You'll be fine.
Absolutely. This bracket is absolutely stacked. We're not going to talk for too long because we know you guys have been waiting for the tournament while we resolve some issues. So just told our first players to get underway. Our first match is going to be Hoej versus Ajax. Raven, who is Hoej?
So Hoej is a player. Anyone who follows the scene really would know. He's one of, in my opinion, one of the best players in the world. He plays for NaVi on a team with Osaka, current world champion, and Sixo. He's extremely good, so I would expect him to take the first game quite easily. He's known just throughout the scene as such a solid player and very calm. So, but as you mentioned, actually, though, because this is single elimination, this tournament is actually ruthless. There's one spot, and that's it. And like these guys are literally playing for everything. Every single game is going to be super important for everyone here.
All right, well, let's get into this game here. Of course, the tournament is brought to you by Game and Ballistics.
There you go.
Yeah, let's go with that. So we have Hoej on the bottom here against Ajax on the top. Hoej starting with the Warlock against the Paladin of Ajax. Is this a Mysterious Challenger Cup? I'm going to say we're probably going to see quite a bit of Paladin.
Yeah, I think it's pretty reasonable. Paladin's one of the stronger decks at the moment. And just to bear in mind, just so everyone is aware, this is last hero standing, no bans, and the 3 decks have been submitted beforehand. So already looking at this, it looks like Hoej is actually playing a Reno luck, as we can see the Reno, whereas it looks like it does have a combo, as there is a Faceless Manipulator in there. So what this deck wants to do is just control the board for as long as possible and then burst their opponent down, whereas Ajax on the other side does have Paladin, and it looks to potentially actually be aggro Paladin because it does have Abusive Sergeant and Argent Squire in it.
Yeah, I was going to say that seems a good shout there for the aggro Paladin, which is a deck which not necessarily in favor right now, but a lot of people maybe tried to bring it back recently, and it was of course a very popular deck pre-Mysterious Challenger and Secret Paladin. Yeah, so this looks like the combo version of the Reno Lock, which is either running Leroy Jenkins and wanting to use the Emperor Thorison, or the Arcane Golem version with Power Overwhelming to make some kind of combo happen. Just looking at the lineups, Hoej has the Druid, Warrior, and Warlock, while Ajax has the Paladin, Druid, and Warlock. So pretty similar lineups, just the Warrior and the Paladin different. Hoej not bringing Paladin, which is really interesting. We'll see which version of the Warrior it is that he's bringing. But Ajax here bringing the the Shielded Minibot and the Knife Juggler to start with, which is interesting because it won't necessarily give Hoej any indication that he isn't playing Secret Paladin.
Yeah, it's one of the benefits of playing aggro Paladin at the moment, because everyone is expecting Secret Paladin. A lot of the cards are very similar, except for some burst. So you would expect, like, oh, this looks like Secret Paladin, fine. You play as if it is, and then suddenly they can pull out some pretty big burst out of nowhere with cards like Blessing of Might, Blessing of Kings, and even just things like Abusive Sergeant putting extra damage. And this might actually even contain Leroy, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, you can see there the Sir Finley Murgleton, which he's going to be looking for a more aggressive hero power, something like the Hunter hero power in the aggro Paladin, which is something, obviously we haven't seen the aggro Paladin that much since League of Explorers, so we don't really know whether Finley Murgleton is what you would call a standard card in the aggro Paladin. But looking at the muster for battle here, I guess Ajax is maybe weighing up the merits of the Sir Finley Murgleton straight away. But going with the muster for battle here, And Hoy has some options now with the Dart Peddler, also has the Implosion that he wants to use, but I think probably looking at the Dart Peddler here, maybe even with a tap first, though, has to be a little bit concerned about his life total against a very aggressive deck.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty good for Hoy, though, because as we can see, he does have Defender of Argus, Molten Giant, and Reno, so he can pull, he can let himself take a bit of damage as long as he's got the recovery in there, and Hoy's really going to want to dig for the AoE, because this deck runs things like Hellfire, Demon Wrath, Shadow Flame, to really clear the Paladin board down and be a bit more defensive. He does go for the tap into Owl, which is going to be useful later on to deal with things like Blessing of Kings minions, or even Blessing of Might, or anything like that might come out.
Yep, so Blood Imp, Flame Imp, and Leper Gnome are the options for Hoy here. Pretty decent choices. I think he's probably thinking between the Flame Imp and the Leper Gnome.
Yeah, I think the issue is he might even go for Leper Gnome just to guard his life a little bit, because the problem with these picks is, although they're like in a vacuum good picks for the Warlock, Hoy wants more defensive cards more than anything at the moment, because he's under a bit of pressure. He does go for the Flame Imp, but as we mentioned earlier, he's had no real signal that this is aggro Paladin. But even so, it's going to be difficult for Ajax, I believe, because he doesn't have any particular burst, and the second something like Finley is played, Hoy will know exactly what this list is, as Finley does look like it's about to go down. And then Hoy will alter his play accordingly. And sitting with Reno and a Molten in hand, he can even like Molten, Faceless, and Argus. And then that's going to be really difficult for Ajax to actually punch through.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a bit like handlock in this aggressive matchup situation, right? When you draw the Molten Giant, you're always feeling pretty good about that, because the old adage was if you're playing, say, Face Hunter against handlock, you had to kill them before they dropped double Molten Giant Argus, because they always had it. Oh, we see the steady shot there, so it does pick that up.
Yeah, for most aggro decks, like same with like aggro shaman, you want like the Hunter Hero power 9 times out of 10 just to put even more pressure on your opponent. And as we can see, that's an extra 2 damage this turn, an additional 2 from the Abusive Sergeant, and now Hoy will quickly realise that what deck he's facing here.
Yep, doesn't have the mana to do anything with Defender of Argus, anything defensive at this point. So how much damage is he staring down here? Still not a huge amount of damage. It's, what, 8 damage next turn? And there's nothing that Ajax could find that would give him that 5 damage. So Hoy possibly even feels a little bit safe, maybe developing something here.
Yeah, there's always a problem, though, where you can actually, 2 Blessing of Kings, Blessing of Might, sorry, is a problem. Things like Leroy as well is a problem. So, there's always a chance that, the extra burst could come out of this deck. And Hoy hasn't actually got an easy way to deal with it. He might even just Implosion the 2-1 to put some minions on board for Argus next turn. Oh, is he going for Flame Imp Argus? Oh, hang on. No, this is sick. Flame Imp, Molten Giant Argus. The combo's real, guys.
Yeah, it's a good combo.
Yeah, puts himself to 10 health, so the Molten costs nothing, gets 2 minions down, and now without a silence, suddenly Ajax's board seems a little bit worse for wear.
Just going to turn these game sounds down just a tiny little bit. So we're, I'd say, live production, ladies and gentlemen. It is real.
It's easy. It's easy.
It's not that easy. It's difficult.
So, Ajax is joining the mini-bot, but that must feel pretty useless at the moment. And his options are very limited. And to be honest, as soon as Hoy drops Jackson next turn, even if he needs to, he could like Faceless the Molten if he wants to be even more defensive. So, Hoy still has a lot of options, but the second Reno comes down, this is going to be an uphill climb for Ajax. And I really think this Reno might actually seal the deal for Hoy in this game 1.
Well, this is what always happens with these aggro decks, and something that I've said when talking about things like Face Hunter, and I've been derided for it in the past, but these decks are very much like Freeze Mage, in that they have a limited amount of damage in the deck. So if you can take their damage, exhaust their resources, and then heal up with Reno, you can just be completely out of range, and then they don't have anything left on the deck to kill you.
Yeah, exactly. And this Lotheb's going to stop anything crazy in terms of like Shadow Flame coming out. But the thing is, a Shadow Flame on that board wouldn't be great anyway, so he's just presenting like as much damage as possible. And now there are so many options for Hoy. Like, I actually wouldn't mind too terribly if he went Faceless Manipulator on the Molten, and then just used his first Molten to trade into the 5/5 maybe, clear up the 1/1 with the 2/3, and then save Reno for one more turn. But because Reno is on curve, he might actually just drop it and be confident in the 1/9/9.
Yeah, I think there's definitely merit to both plays here. It's a little bit of how greedy do you want to get with the Reno. there's some players we want to get, I think, below 5 health before they go for the Reno, but sometimes it's, a 20-point heal is pretty good as well. But Hoej does go for the faceless play, as you said, and it plays out exactly as you suggested, controlling the board. And really, how does Ajax get through 299 taunts? Reno or no Reno? How is he beating this if he doesn't get... Obviously, he has the Blessing of Might there, so include the first one. He'd need to get an Owl next turn or something, but at that point, how much damage is he going to have taken?
Yeah, the thing is as well, like, to deal with these 2 Moltons effectively, like, Ajax would need 2 Owls and then some buffs to be able to kill Hoej here, so which is why he feels pretty confident in just creating the second taunt. He can clear through the 9-4, but he would have to face tank 9. And then again, it's just the second this Reno comes down this turn, it's going to be so difficult.
Yeah, and that's it's the kind of thing that makes you concede from 28 health, because really, what are you doing at that point?
Yeah, and I think one of the things that Ajax could come back with is actually a Divine Favor, but he doesn't even have it at the moment, and the deck should run it. So Divine Favor against Warlock would be really strong, but Reno Jackson comes down, and we'll see how long Ajax stays in the game for now, because he's still not completely out of it by any means.
Yeah,
but
he needs to draw. Yeah, he needed to draw an Owl there or some other way of dealing with this taunt, but didn't get it, unfortunately. And that's, I mean, how much damage is there even on board? There's 15 damage on board. There would just need to be another 2 from Hoej.
Yeah, and Hoej can just tap for it if he really wants. It doesn't really matter anymore, I don't think. Let's have a look. Coil, well, he can definitely coil for it as well. He can coil and just play Dr. Boom and run the 2/2 into the Juggler, I guess, just because why not, and smack him in the face for 9.
Yeah, so
he's going to tap. Oh, there's Shadow Flame, nice. So now he might actually just kill the Creeper and then Shadow Flame the 2/2, empty the board, and then just say, what you going to do with no cards and no minions.
Yeah, I definitely think that's the safe play here. When you don't have the damage to go to deal the lethal blow, there's no point really. So, yeah, kill the Creeper, and then Shadow Flame. I do like the Shadow Flame, though. I mean, you can't just go face here. There's so little chance of dying.
Well, he still goes face for 13 with the Molten Giant and the Reno, and it doesn't actually. It cost him a 2/2 in Shadow Flame, and what else is he going to Shadow Flame at this point in the match? You're not really expecting like Tyrion from this deck now that you've seen the Blessing of Might. So he wants the Juggles not to hit the 2/1, and they don't. So pretty easy.
That was the one thing he was thinking about is there a chance I lose this Argus here?
So to be fair to Ajax, he might top deck that one card that does 26 damage or heals for a million, but that's definitely not going to be it. He's going to stay in the game, use his hero power, but there goes his Paladin, and it will be now knocked out of the tournament. This match, should I say. He isn't knocked out of the tournament, not best of ones. And Hoej will be sticking with his Reno lock.
Well, it could have been Reno. It could have been Reno Aggro Paladin. So,
yeah, that awesome deck everyone's playing.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone's playing that right now. So
what were the rest of the lineup? Sorry, I didn't get a chance to actually open them.
You've put me on the spot now. Let's have a look. We have from Ajax, we'll have the Druid and the Warlock against the obviously the Warlock of Hoej that he's opened with, and then he'll have the Warrior and the Druid.
Okay, so I mean, it's tough to say anyone but Hoy's favoured here, just because of his performance and who he is. But I'm just trying to look now. Even in terms of lineup, I think he's doing pretty okay here.
Well, let's see what he's gone with. It is the Druid that he's moving on to. What do you think of the Druid against the Reno Warlock?
Yeah, the Druid's actually probably going to be as good as he's going to get versus the Reno, because what you can do now is that the AoE is much less effective versus Druid, because, we can see Hellfire in the opening hand there. 3 damage to all minions, fine, but a lot of Druid minions are quite big. And then you can actually do the thing that you always try to do against Reno, where you don't push them too hard to play Reno, and then you just kill them with a big combo, which is something that we all know that Druid can do, and Druid likes to do now and again. So we'll see how that pans out for us. Hoy's opening hand is, I would say, okay. Not fantastic, but okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's hand lucky, right? He's got Twilight Drake, so he can build that up. He has a Hellfire. There's a Molten Giant, so that's going to be good if he gets any problems early on. Taps right into the Gang Boss, though.
Yeah, the Gang Boss is actually pretty huge. I don't think there's any real Warlock deck where you don't want to play in Gang Boss on turn 3. Every single game.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much in every Warlock deck right now.
Yeah.
I don't know there's any Warlock deck which doesn't run in Gang Boss.
So
Reno Lock, Hand Lock, Demon Hand Lock, all of these things.
Yeah, any good Warlock deck.
Yeah, any playable Warlock deck.
But looking at Ajax's hand, he might actually go for the Coin Innovate Drake, and I wouldn't even mind that because there's very little point using just like Living Roots again for 2 more 1/1s. Like, you're not going to race down the Warlock at that point, and it can be useful later to either deal 2 damage or create tokens for a potential combo later. So I don't mind that. The Azure Drake silences draws a card, and then puts a good body on the board as well. You know, it starts to build up the pressure, which is what you need to do against Reno.
Yeah, and you also have to think about what the AoE coming out from the Warlock is going to be. Hellfire is obviously still a turn away. That won't get rid of the Drake. Something like a Dark Bomb. It would need to be Dark Bomb Mortal Coil, I think, to get rid of the Azure Drake, and we can see that Hoej has neither of those. Mortal Coil not that common in real lock either. So the Azure Drake pretty safe in this position.
Yeah, and even now, like, Hoy's always going to play the Gang Boss there. He's not exactly going to pass just because there's a Drake on the board. But we'll see now how Ajax chooses to deal with it, because Wrath is looking pretty reasonable. He can Wrath, use the 1/1 to clear off, and still guard his Drake, and his Drake actually hits face. So that's why it's important here. He could have just like traded with the Drake and run a 1/1 in, but he's now sort of gained the 4 damage that Wrath gets him. The only issue for Ajax really now is his hand. His hand is not that scary at all. Although the Twilight Drake is going to get absolutely nailed by the Keeper of the Grove and just get silenced. The 1/1 to clear it off as well.
You say his hand isn't scary, but he has a Keeper of the Grove and a 1/1 on board against the Twilight Drake coming down in turn 4. So it's about as scary as it gets when you're playing a Twilight Drake.
Yeah, but look at the rest of his hand. You know, it's not exactly threatening.
Yeah.
He just needs to. Or he just needs to deal with this Azure Drake, I think. He can just. Yeah, he can just go into Sludge Belcher now, I imagine. Maybe. I don't know how worth Hellfire Mortal Coil is, because you still leave the 2/1 up, which isn't too great. I feel that maybe Sludge Belcher, and then you presume the Azure Drake will run into the Belcher to Mortal Coil it next turn.
Yeah, we do see there's a lot of resources in Ajax's hand. Obviously, he doesn't have the minions to play, but he has a second Living Roots and a second Wrath, as well as obviously the hero power. So a lot of ways to deal with things like Sludge Belcher that do come down. Because if you're Hoy, you're feeling a little bit more comfortable with the Sludge Belcher, having seen the first Keeper. But as I say, we know that there's a lot of ways for Ajax to deal with this.
Yeah, the scary thing here is he can actually just Wrath hero power and then Living Roots if he wants the 1/2, and then just go face again. Which will be pretty reasonable. He could even Wrath for 1, which would be 2, and then Living Roots for 3 because of the spell power, and then not actually draw a card with Wrath as well, which I actually quite like because he has Innovate in hand.
Yeah, so he's just thinking how to use his damage here, how best to line it up.
Is he gonna? I kind of like the card draw.
Yeah, he can. Yeah, so he can Wrath for card draw and use the Living Roots. And then, I guess, use the Keeper of the Grove to clear up the slime. But he's going to go for the 4. This is both times he's actually gone for that over the card draw, which is interesting.
Yeah, I think this is okay, though, but I would now like to see the Living Roots actually spawn the tokens. Yeah, is he going to play Living Roots? Please play Living Roots. Because he has Savage Draw, right? So you want to put the tokens on board? Oh, okay, that's kind of interesting. I wonder why. Maybe he has Lethal without it, because he can Savage Draw Living Roots face next turn.
So he has 6, 12, Living Roots face. Yeah, it is lethal, but unfortunately the board is going to get cleared here.
Yeah, and now Ajax is going to start to really, really get upset about these proccing Molten Giants from Hoy, because this is the second game in a row he's done this, and then he can actually follow up with Argus.
I think Druid of the Claw top deck, that wouldn't quite be lethal because you would need to play the Living Roots as well.
Yeah.
So he's just going to fill the board here now.
Yeah, what's actually crazy about this is, never mind with the Argus, he can actually just Faceless and Sun Fury instead, and then kill off the 3/3, I suppose. I think that would be fine, because he does need to buy time, because, we sort of laugh and joke about Hoy being, putting out the other Molten, but he is also on 9 health.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the Faceless is definitely the play here. And once again, how is Ajax going to get through those 2 Molten Giants?
Yeah, it's going to be rough. He's also already seen 1 Keeper of the Grove. There's a BGH that obviously hasn't been seen yet that is most likely in Ajax's Druid deck. So, there's a chance that 1 dies, but the chance that, BGH comes out and then, Innovate double Savage Roar or something, is pretty slim.
Yeah.
And I imagine we are going to see Hoy clear up this 3/3 here.
So doing it this way to get maximum Faceless value, taunting the Molten and then copying rather than copying and then taunting.
Oh, wow. Look how close this is to lethal. He's one
Double
off.
swipe. Wow.
That's
Is there
actually
any way? No, there's no way to do 16 damage with the Savage or to get through.
No.
And if you just held, it's so difficult because if he'd held onto that living roots, that would have been lethal.
Yeah, it's kind of odd though. It's not particularly a misplay not holding on to it because you can't obviously imagine drawing another
drawing two swipes in a row.
Yeah, exactly. Drawing another swipe and then you put the living roots on the board because you have Force of Nature. But this is definitely a big wall that Ajax has to deal with, and even then, if he gets down enough of this, and he's setting up for like swipe hero power next turn, to then finish him off maybe. He can clear up, right?
You can put him to 1, I think. I was thinking, so you can double swipe one of the Moltons, the other one goes down to 6, and then you hit face for 8 if you hero power?
He can't double swipe though, he doesn't have the mana.
Oh yeah, okay, so it's because you put this out.
He swipes once and then hopes Hoej doesn't have a heal or something for the following turn. But Siphon Soul might just be used on anything at this point, just to heal Hoej back up.
Yeah, Siphon Soul on the 2/2 is definitely an option. Because he's going to take 8 to face here, so actually putting himself very low. And the Molten Giant stays alive, so... Oh, Hoej's got lethal with the Defender of Argus. Yeah, so
wow, and there we go.
That's just going to be lethal. The 1 point of damage. What a shootout that was right at the end there. So close to lethal for Ajax, and then Hoej leaving Hoej at 1 damage off lethal. So Hoej does get the second win with that Reno lock there. And, I mean, a commanding performance from the guy who you have to think is the favourite looking at this bracket on paper.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing as well is that, like, that's the second time Hoej's done the Molten Giant into a faceless. So, sorry, excuse the dog. So, like, that's the second time he's done it to him. So that's got to feel pretty rough. And this Reno lock's going to go again.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. It's going to go into the Warlock of Ajax, which is a matchup he tried to avoid in the first time he picked it. It looks like it's going to be Zoo. And there's a Zombie Chow to start for Hoej, which is pretty perfect. Alright, so this is not a bad start for Hoej. Gets the Mortal Call to deal with anything that has 1 health. But he's just going to play that Zombie Chow early. Ajax has a Voidwalker, which is one of the few things that doesn't die directly to Zombie Chow, but you can see the Zombie Chow Mortal Coil combination will deal with that. There's a Haunted Creeper to follow up, so Ajax is curving not terribly. Hoej could just play the Sun Fury as well to get another body on board, which is something that isn't really seen in decks anymore. But thinking back to the days sort of pre-GVG, around the kind of Nax time when Druids were playing things like Spectral Knights, Druids were messing around with a lot of 2-drops, Sun Fury Protector, Haunted Creeper, that sort of thing, which just to fill out the curve, and as we can see now, Dorness's Aspirant kind of fills that role. But yeah, so the Zombie Choust opening here for Hoej feels pretty good, and the Mortal Coil seems like an obvious line to go down here.
Yeah, you always want, like, something early against what looks like the sort of the up-and-coming Sea Giant Zoo list that we've seen quite a lot of, and I've played a lot of, actually. So, you do want something on the board to start challenging the minions, because all Hoej will really do now is just make sure the board is as empty as possible on his opponent's side every single turn, because then Zoo just can't really win. And the Hellfire, the Coil, the Shadow Flame are all going to push towards that. So that's going to be really good for him. But Ajax is a pretty good turn with getting some value off that Direwolf. He might even actually just trade the Voidwalker, into the 2/2 just to get it off the board. Because you're still kind of open to a Shadow Flame and stuff like that if you leave it on.
Absolutely. So yeah, it just looks like he's going to try and put some damage through here. Dark Iron Dwarf in the Zoo for Ajax is quite interesting. We see the Sea Giant, which is very much in vogue when it comes to Zoo right now. Dark Iron Dwarf is interesting. Our colleague in the UK casting Mafia, Sottle, talked about doing some testing with Zoo in the 4-drop slot. So a lot of people are playing things like Gormok and Hansel. And Sottle seemed to like the Gormok better, but I think the Dark Iron Dwarf came out a close second in that.
Yeah, and believe it or not, I actually don't play in Handsome, play Gormok and Dark Iron Dwarf. So
play both, okay.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of room in Zoo for some, like sort of style picks, I'd say. But Dark Iron Dwarf is really good because it's a good 4/4 in itself, and again, Zoo's ability to trade up is almost unparalleled. And it's just another good card, another good 4-drop that allows you to consistently trade up.
Yeah, absolutely. And with Gormok and Dark Iron Dwarf. Dark Iron Dwarf is better because you're more than likely going to get something off with it, but you have to be prepared to play these things as 4/4s on curve.
Yeah, so we are going to see a Dark Iron Dwarf now, and it's just basically just to buff and just keep pushing for damage, because something you can do versus Reno is actually just push hard enough and hope they don't have Reno, and then go from there.
Unfortunately, someone's played Unleash the Hounds against Raven, and we're having to battle against that here.
It's typical. They were quiet up until we started to cast.
Of course it was. He's just going to go and Houndmaster those dogs and bring them under control. So what do you do here if you're Hoy? You can Implosion the 2/2 or well, I guess it's how do you favor your RNG here if you want to Implosion, right? So you can Implosion the Direwolf and it definitely dies, or you can Implosion the Dark Iron and try your luck. You do have the Coin Mortal Coil as well if it only rolls 2, if it only rolls 3. So your only problem there is if it rolls 2.
Yeah, something he actually could do is actually, believe it or not, Implosion the 2/2. And then go for that set up Hellfire Coil next turn, but it looks like he's just going to Hellfire and Mortal Coil now to reduce it down as much as possible.
The dog disagrees, unfortunately, with the Hellfire play, but it's going to be what he does. And he's going to coin the Mortal Coil this turn, kill the 4/1. And once again, we see Hoy getting very low early, but I have to say, the ability of Hoy to draw the Molten Giant early every game against these aggressive decks has been very impressive. We've seen a very aggro-heavy lineup from Ajax. So plays the Nerubian Egg. Now he's got the Power Overwhelming in hand because it's now a viable threat, something he can activate the egg with. Instead of the Loatheb, goes for the tap into the egg, which is interesting. I guess you want to play the Loatheb to prevent something like a Shadow Flame or an Implosion when you feel like your board's likely to get AoE'd, and when you've just taken AoE damage from the Hellfire, it's unlikely your opponent's going to use AoE on the next turn unless you absolutely flood the board with something huge. So once again, we have Molten Giant Taunt as an option for Hoy, and if you're Ajax here and that comes down, it's going to feel pretty disheartening in the first round to every single game be facing Molten Giant Taunt against Reno Lock.
Hey, sorry about that. I just Ironbeak owled the dogs.
Yeah, I was just remarking on the we talk about Hoy being such a skillful player, and he has displayed it with his ability to draw Molten Giant Taunt within the first 6 or 7 cards in 3 straight games against aggro.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. And also, though, this sort of lineup that we've seen is one where, I mean, the Druid less so, but where in Last Hero Standing, if you bring all aggro lineup, you can get punished by one strong anti-aggro deck. You know what I mean? So, although the Druid was a bit unfortunate because he did really well with the Faceless there, we just see the fact that you can punish decks like this pretty hard. If you choose your lineup against it. This is kind of a tough one though, because I'm trying to work out whether he wants to go Twilight Drake into Sunfury here, or whether he wants to go Molten Sunfury. It's definitely a tough one. He could even go crazy here and actually try and get the 4 damage Implosion on the 4/4, which would be brave and very unlikely. Yeah,
I feel like you need to do something with the taunt to really have a good chance of kind of closing this game out at this point. And it's like we've seen in the other games, right? You can go down to a dozen health or less, but if you can put up a big wall of taunts, there's nothing your opponent can do.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? Twilight Drake probably provides the highest health. And he can get a big Molten off later. So I like this. And he has Siphon Soul for any, major issues. If a Sea Giant comes out now, he can just kill it. And it's not really a problem. And the Twilight Drake still actually kills off the 4/4 and the 1/1 as well.
Well, Implosion is definitely an option here if Ajax is feeling brave.
Yeah, and the thing with Implosion on a target with such high health is that he can almost get, because it doesn't die, it's even more minions to reduce the Sea Giant cost. So this is a real tough turn for Ajax actually. There's not a lot he can do here. I think actually maybe just Implosion, hope it rolls well, and then put the Sea Giant down. It's going to be as good as he can get, but you're definitely going to start being a bit fearful of things like the Siphon Soul, is coming, or BGH, or anything like that. And The issue there is, though, you can't always play around things like that, so sometimes you just have to go for him. We'll see what Ajax actually goes for as the rope is burning down. Oh, Lothar, that's interesting. Okay.
Alright, just going for the Lothar to develop the board, and the Flame Imp. So, trying to build up something scary, but we see there is... It does lock out the Shadow Flame possibilities when you build up this board.
Oh, wow, and there's Molten and Defender of Argus to just say, yeah, I don't really care.
Yeah, I mean, do you Defender on the 4-8 as well, or do you just go for the full wall of taunts and do it on the 2-3?
It's definitely a tough one. There's even an option where he can just kill the 4-4, kill the 3-2, and then just play Emperor if he really wants to, because then he has Alexstrasza next turn if anything goes too crazy. Yeah,
that's the Alexstrasza is definitely going to help him as well to heal back up. It's like a mini Reno, I guess, healing you to half health rather than full health.
Yeah. The thing here is as well, like, there's so many options. Like, Molten's probably just the safest, but you'll definitely want to trade this turn. So I would be surprised if the 4-8... Oh, and there's Faceless again. Oh, look! Molten Faceless. Even though he's not going to play it this turn.
Molten,
but this is
Faceless, and both the taunts. Okay, yeah. Sure.
And this taunt lineup's really good, because what this does is he kills the Flame Imp, still leaves a 3-1 on the board, and you know what, like, Zoo doesn't run? Like Mortal Coils or any AoE. So
not at
you
this
do
point.
just have to...
Yeah, there was a point when Zoo did run a lot of Mortal Coils, but it does... Oh, there's the 2 roll on the Implosion. Yeah, this is slipping away from Ajax here.
Has he just got lethal? 9, 10, 11, 12... Oh, no, he's 1 off lethal. Oh, no, he's not, because he didn't reduce the Alexstrasza. Never mind. So I actually just imagine we'll see Siphon Soul run the 2-3 into the 5-1 maybe, and then just go face. Because what's his opponent going to do? Well, he can also... even just... You can play the Dark Peddler as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, you could Peddler to see if there's any burst you can get to finish him off the next turn. I don't think there's any way to... there's no burst you can get this turn, unfortunately.
Yeah, so... Oh, he can just get, like, Pat PO, I guess. Oh, there we go.
Is that lethal?
It's 35. It's still not lethal,
yeah,
but it pretty much guarantees it next turn.
Yeah, so I think you still go for the Siphon Soul and the Sea Giant and trade away the 5-1, and then there's nothing your opponent can do, and Hoej is cruising towards a 3-0 lead here.
Yeah, I mean this is kind of crazy that you just see, this kind of game almost 3 times straight from Hoej. It's kind of nuts, but you know what? He knows his deck, and it's going pretty well for him as he hits face with the Molten Giant and just sets up almost guaranteed lethal. His power overwhelming is not going to be enough, and this is going to lead to a swift removal from this tournament from Ajax here. Oh, he can PO and kill the Molten, though. So he might actually extend just a little bit. He did tap into the Doom Guard, so he can PO and run them both in. But again, what does this actually do? That's the problem.
Yeah, I think he survives, but I don't see how he wins from here.
Yeah, Hoej can just, like, slam Alex on himself now. Like, he can play whatever he wants, realistically, but he could just Alex himself and then just say, you've got no cards. What 2 cards can you get with live tap? Like, saves you, actually. Like, it just doesn't really exist.
Yeah, so Hoej just going with the Thorson and the Gang Boss to develop the board and set himself up for lethal. I guess next turn, I don't think there's anything Ajax can draw that will save him here. Yeah, well, there's a Peddler, so maybe there's some secret 1-drop we don't know about Alex.
Yeah, one of those crazy 1-drops that randomly does 13 damage. Or, 1-drop Reno. Imagine how scary that would be. The Voidwalker actually does nothing whatsoever.
I don't know what you're doing to that poor dog. I think that dog is just not a fan of Reno Lock.
Yeah, definitely not. Not a crushing this hard for 3-0. He does get the 0-4 though, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, and gets the owl, which is what the dog sounded like there, which is fun. The silence and go through for lethal. So that is going to be it. Hoej is going to take his first game 3-0. First game of the day. Hoej going to be winning that very comfortably.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I mean, not unexpected. And you know what? It's kind of good as well because a lot of players, and viewers actually think that the Hearthstone's all RNG and everything, and we see some big names get knocked out pretty quick, like in the EU prelims. And my dog is actually going crazy. Calm down.
What's going on?
I don't know. He won't actually tell me what's wrong.
He's playing a game of Hearthstone on ladder, and he's just so tilted.
Yeah, but yeah, it was good to see Hoej win. Good to see a really strong player move on at least to the next round.
All right. Well, while Alex is dealing with his dog-related problem,